Today's topic is all about Kundalini symbology and how those symbols show up all around the world, often hidden in plain sight, often overlooked. And so today I have a little bit of a slideshow of some images that I want to share with you about Kundalini symbols and how they show up, just to point them out to you in case you didn't notice. Today I'll also be sharing a couple stories about my encounters with Kundalini symbols out in the wild, out in the real world on my journey. Some of the favorite stories that I've ever had in terms of encountering Kundalini Shakti and the way that she presents herself through symbol, through synchronicity. I want to share with you about how I discovered what I believe to be the largest Kundalini Shakti statue ever in the world, hidden once again in plain sight. And it's definitely the coolest thing that I've ever found. It's one of the coolest stories I have, and I want to share that with you today, so stay tuned. I'm going to talk all about that. Be sure to check out the other parts of this series if you haven't already. I've got some very important, informative tips, principles, and practices to help you to get through your Kundalini process safely and smoothly. Today's episode is a little bit of a fun one. The other episodes, they might be fun, but they're a bit more serious, a bit more in-depth. I have some pretty informative information there to help you to get through your process with ease. We know that this process can be challenging, can be turbulent, it can be a bit of a roller coaster at times. So I really invite you to check out those other parts of the series as well. You can also visit brentspirit.com for more free content just like this. So some of the symbols I'll be speaking about today, they come from throughout history around the world. Now, I'm not an expert, I'm not a historian or anything like that. So, you can take what I'm sharing with a grain of salt. You can do your own research. Don't come at me challenging what I'm saying. Just please, I'm just having some fun here. Some of the symbols, they may have different meanings, and I may be superimposing my own meanings upon them. Yeah, maybe so. Invite you to use your discernment, use your skepticism, think for yourself, and at the same time, have some fun with me here today too. Okay, so I'm just sharing some of my own ideas and some things that I've found through bare minimum research on Google. If you'd like to go deeper, like I said, please do your own research. So let's just get right into it. So let's begin with the most common symbol used to represent the Kundalini serpent. I'm going to jump over to the slideshow and show you some of these images here. Okay, so here's a photo I took of a really cute snake. So there's many reasons for why the snake represents the Kundalini. In its dormant state, the Kundalini lies coiled 3 times at the base of the spine, like a snake. And when it awakens, it moves up along the spinal column, weaving in and out of the 7 chakras. As well, the spine itself, the spinal column itself, if you look at it through maybe like an x-ray, you can see that it's curved, just like a snake would be as well. Of course, if you've been following along with the series for a while, you've been following along with the topic of Kundalini in general, you must have seen the depictions of snakes and the connection with Kundalini. So this is maybe nothing new to you, but stay with me. We're going to get into some interesting stuff as we go through this. The snake also represents the shedding of skin, which is, of course, a growth process. It's a healing process. It's, in a way, a death and rebirth process, which is what the Kundalini process is all about, of course. As well, the snake is also a powerful animal that can kill, and so it must be respected. Now, maybe not this snake. This is a cute little harmless California garter snake. But generally speaking, the snake is a symbol of a venomous animal that should be respected. Some of them aren't venomous, but they look like they imitate snakes that are venomous based on their stripes and colors and whatnot. So generally speaking, they should be respected. And this is one thing that I understood when I made the connection between snakes and Kundalini. Just like how we respect a snake if we were to encounter them, we have to respect the Kundalini as well. Recognizing her power, recognizing her ability to potentially make things very difficult for us if we don't treat her with respect, if we don't treat her with reverence, if we don't cooperate and surrender to the process. So just like snakes, Kundalini must be respected as well. So let's see, where does the serpent show up all around us? So here we have a symbol, you must have seen it. This is the classic Caduceus symbol. So this symbol has 2 snakes intertwining around a winged rod. The symbol comes from Hermes, which is the messenger of the gods from the Greek mythology. So here we have 2 snakes, and this might represent maybe the major nadis that are outside of the Sushumna Nadi, which is the nadi that goes up the spinal column. On either side, there are two nadis as well, Ida and Pingala. And these are Sanskrit terms as well, by the way. Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. Nadis are channels, energetic channels within the system. So here in the caduceus symbol, we have the snakes weaving around each of the 7 chakras, finally meeting at the crown. So we have 1 point here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the crown. Of course, the crown here has wings representing that awakened, enlightened consciousness, like an angel, kind of like when you see a halo around a saintly person. It's representing the awakened crown, right? So the caduceus symbol today is used to represent health and healing, and it shows up in healthcare. And of course, this points towards the power to heal, the healing power of the Kundalini force. Here's a symbol of the Medical Corps of the United States. They've used the caduceus symbol to represent health, healing, and the medical field. This is a sculpture, sort of piece of artwork that's found in the health department and the Department of Health and Wellness in Fulton County, Georgia. And this shows a man, I'm not sure exactly who that would be, but it's a man fighting off death with the caduceus symbol, right? Warding off death, healing, right? Maybe representing immortality in a way. So the medical field has appropriated this symbol to use it to represent healing, right? Now, some say that this is an erroneous usage of the symbol, when in fact there is another symbol that actually represents health and healing, which is this one right here, which is the Rod of Asclepius, Greek, Roman Greek. This symbol here has only one snake going off the rod as well. So this is another symbol that we see in the health field. And there's some debate, some criticism about, the quote-unquote mistake that was made using the caduceus symbol, when in fact it should have been the Rod of Asclepius. Hope I'm saying that right. But to me, both are clearly symbols of the Kundalini force, which of course is the ultimate healing symbol. So I don't really see any issue with using either. Now, prior to my Kundalini awakening experience, when I was leading up to it, in the midst of, activation, Kundalini activation, but not yet at the point of like a full rising that took place in one moment, you could say. I was really steeped in this topic, really steeped in the journey, and I met with a friend who was as well, and we met at the mall, and we went for a stroll around the mall. We got a coffee or whatever and just walked around the mall, and we were looking for somewhere to sit, and all the benches in the mall were taken. They were all occupied. So we kept walking around, no big deal. Eventually we found a bench that was unoccupied. And so we sat down, we were chatting, we were talking about the Kundalini, talking about this healing force, purifying force, that's divine force, Kundalini, right? And suddenly I look up, and right in front of us, we're sitting in front of a pharmacy, and etched into the window of this pharmacy was a really big and beautiful caduceus symbol. And I thought, oh, there it is right there, Kundalini showing up right in front of us. This is why all the other benches were occupied. We were meant to sit down here right in front of this symbol and just, sit in awe for a moment. And to me, this was a bit of a nod from the universe, from Kundalini, from the goddess, saying, hey, yeah, you guys are on the right track. Keep going. I'm with you. I'm here with you. Let go, surrender. Everything's going to work out for you. So that was one of the stories I have of encountering Kundalini symbology in the real world. So another symbol, this one that we've all seen, may have overlooked it. I overlooked this until like a couple weeks ago when somebody on the When Lightning Strikes group had shared this. This is the dollar sign. So once again, we have a slithering serpent rising up, the rod here in the center. Sometimes it's 2 rods, sometimes 1 rod when we look at the dollar sign. But this is every day in plain sight. We all go to work to earn this. And that's Kundalini rising up the rod once again. The serpent ascending up the spinal column. Okay. Some respects you could argue, we worship money as well. Some of us. I don't really have a strong opinion about that. But of all the symbols we could use to represent health, medicine, healing, all the symbols that we can use to represent wealth, money, why do we land on the same symbology here? The snake going up the rod. There's a million different symbols we could use, right? Graphic designers are coming up with unique logos all day, every day. Why do we land on the same symbol? Why is that the symbol that we choose to represent arguably the two most important things in our life? Our health, our wealth, right? Our livelihood. It's interesting. Something to think about, right? So the origins of the dollar sign aren't completely known, but to me it seems like, Kundalini Shakti decided to make herself known once again in, of course, such a powerful and obvious way, hidden in plain sight, you could say. So let's keep going here. So in the first chapter of the Bible, Genesis, the serpent shows up there again as well. So we have Adam and Eve, and we have the snake. Of course, you could say we also have the tree of knowledge. So the serpent approaches Eve and offers her a chance to attain knowledge, right? Now, I won't go into too much detail about this. I'm not familiar enough. I was raised in a Catholic family, went to Catholic school and all that kind of stuff, but there's people that are far more familiar with the symbology and the different interpretations of this story than I am, so I'll leave you to do your own research on this. But I just think it's very interesting that here, the very first story in the Bible, is one to do with the snake going up this tree, the tree of knowledge, masculine and feminine, Ida and Pingala, Shiva and Shakti, Adam and Eve, the divine feminine, divine masculine, right? And it's not only, some cryptic verse hidden away in, the middle of the Bible, you could say. It's the first chapter. Not the first chapter, but the first story. Maybe like the third chapter. The first story involves the snake. Something interesting, something to think about. Okay. Snake also shows up in Buddhism as well. Here we have the cobra. 7 heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Representing the 7 chakras. Protecting the Buddha. Is fully awakened above his head. Cobra hood. Once again representing that enlightenment. Right? Kundalini. Buddhism, at surface level, doesn't speak about Kundalini very much, but it is there. If you look into it, Tibetan Buddhism especially, Kundalini is a very, very important force in their practices. They deal a lot with the inner fire, which is, of course, synonymous with Kundalini. We see the symbology here as well. One thing to keep in mind, even as I go to the next pantheon, the next part of the world, part of history, if we look at the Egyptians here, so they have very similar symbology representing Kundalini Shakti with the serpent, right? We have the serpent, the cobra, up at the top of the head here. So symbols representing spiritual awakening, the spiritual process, they show up throughout ancient Egypt. And one thing that is important to understand when we look at the Egyptians here, they made this mask for Tutankhamun. It was made out of gold, right? A lot of thought went into this. Expert craftsmanship went into this. They didn't just arbitrarily put a snake there because it looked cool. There's meaning behind it, right? There's meaning. It's not just, somebody just deciding that's what they want to do today. A lot goes into it, a lot of thought, a lot of planning, a lot of intention. That's the word I'm looking for, a lot of intention. Same with this sculpture here, the statue of the Buddha. This isn't just an artist's interpretation. This is symbology that's meant to represent something very direct. There's a language that's being spoken here. Okay, it's very intentional. So something to keep in mind, and this goes for all the different ways that Kundalini shows up throughout religious symbology. It's intentional. Same goes for Of course, the yogis from India, we've got the cobra around Shiva's neck here. The cobra, the snake, shows up all around in yoga. It's very obvious in yoga. Of course, that's where we get the word Kundalini from. We get it from Sanskrit. But once again, it's very intentional. This every symbol on Shiva here, from the trident to his mudra, there's snakes all over, actually. They all represent something. I'm not familiar enough to even speak on them. I invite you to do your own research to see what all of these things represent. But they're not there, like I've been saying, just randomly, as some sort of abstract art because it looks cool or something. It's not. It's intentional symbology. It's a language that's being spoken to us here. That's what all of this means. It all means something. So we have to look into what that means instead of, just overlooking it, right? And so that's why I'm making this episode here today, to invite you to, to not to overlook some of the things that, can be often overlooked. So let me talk about my discovery of the largest statue dedicated to Kundalini Shakti on the planet, in my understanding. So a few months prior to my Kundalini awakening experience, I was in the midst of a lot of Kundalini phenomena. Around the same time that I met with my friend in the mall and we saw that, Caduceus symbol sitting right in front of it. And so I'm experiencing a lot of different Kundalini phenomena. Maybe you've experienced some of this, heat in my spine, a lot of expansion and energy in my heart, deep meditation, a lot of synchronicity as well. Everywhere I go, it was like I was in a movie, and symbols and meaning and incredible synchronicity all around. Experiences of bliss and things like that. So all of this Kundalini, signs are happening within my system around this time. With some friends, I go to a theme park here in Canada. It's called Wonderland, Canada's Wonderland. And at Wonderland, I was about to go on a very famous ride called Leviathan. So I sat on the roller coaster there, and once you take a seat, you have to wait till everybody gets seated, strapped in, etc. We're waiting for it to launch, and I noticed the attendant there, the employee working the roller coaster, and I noticed his name tag, and his name tag says Shakti. As soon as I noticed that, boom, we blasted off. So, incredible roller coaster ride. I saw Shakti's name, and I'm thinking, wow, another synchronicity. Shakti's with me. She's supporting me. She's guiding me. She's letting me know she's always with me. I'm taken care of. I'm on the right track. Which, by the way, that's what it means whenever you notice things like this out in your waking life around the world, walking around in the world, and you notice symbols of Shakti, synchronicity. It's the universe saying, hey, you're on the right track. Keep going. So we get off this ride, and I'm like, that's cool. And I begin to think about this. Not only was Shakti's name, the attendant, a nod from the universe, from Shakti, from the Divine Mother, there was more to it as well. Now, Shakti, by the way, I spoke to a friend about Shakti, and through a friend, I confirmed that was actually his name. A friend of mine worked at Wonderland along with this guy. And, I wasn't, just like making things up or anything. I was like, yeah, okay, his name is actually Shakti. I was able to, anyway, he's a real person. So the realization didn't stop there, just with Shakti. Next, I thought about the name, Leviathan. So I look it up. I see on Wikipedia, Leviathan. It's the sea snake. It's the sea serpent. Oh, wow, okay. Interesting, I think. So then I think a little bit more. And I realize that Leviathan, the sea snake, the roller coaster, has a certain amount of bumps, of drops. So I count those drops. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drops, representing the 7 chakras. So this is where, or how I came to conclude that the Leviathan roller coaster is the largest statue dedicated to Kundalini Shakti in the world. And not only is it a statue, it is a functional machine and experience simulating the Kundalini process, the roller coaster ride of the Kundalini process, the ups and downs, the fear, the lessons involved in just letting go and enjoying the ride, knowing that you're safe, knowing that Shakti and his team of attendants strapped you in, made you safe, trusting in the whole journey, knowing that you're safe, knowing that it's all going to work out, you're going to arrive, you're going to come back if you happen to, go down into the void, you'll return, ups and downs, that's the journey. So this statue here, Leviathan, Kundalini Shakti, I feel like, one of those people who have a little bit of an obsession with roller coasters, they kind of worship them. I kind of worship this roller coaster. Sometimes I'll drive by and it's really huge. It towers over the skyline. And I remember, that's Kundalini Shakti. It's the largest statue, the largest depiction of Kundalini in the world. So I don't necessarily think that the designers of this roller coaster, the engineers, the marketing people, I don't think that, they were aware of Kundalini Shakti. I don't think so. I don't think they designed the 7 bumps to represent the 7 chakras. I don't think they had a meeting where they decided all this kind of stuff. I think that they were just divinely inspired, right? They went into a sort of channeled state, probably unconsciously, and they feel, sort of inspiration to call it Leviathan and to design it in a certain way. And that's Kundalini Shakti inspiring them as artists, as creators, to bring this forth. Because all creation, which I spoke about in another part of this series where I speak about channeling and creativity, all of it comes as a result of Kundalini Shakti. Whether a person is dealing with awakened Kundalini or not, whether they're spiritual or not, all creation is a result of Shakti, because Kundalini Shakti isn't just limited to spiritual people, yogis and monks and, hippies. It's all over. That's all there is Kundalini. Everything you see is Kundalini. And so if she wants to express herself in a way she can inspire anybody, they don't have to have anything to do with spirituality and yoga and meditation. It'll still come through. And that's what happened here, if you ask me. So this is the greatest statue representing Kundalini Shakti. You can visit it in Ontario. It's called Wonderland. You can check it out. So just like how the engineers, the marketing people were inspired to, bring this Leviathan, this depiction of Kundalini Shakti forth, I think the same goes for those who decided to use the other symbols for the healthcare field, the $, the people who decided on those things. They didn't say, let's do it because this is going to represent Kundalini. I think they were just divinely inspired to do it, and they said, yeah, let's just go with this. The idea came to them and they just went with it because they were compelled to. Okay, so the same way that anything is channeled. So maybe I'm a crazy person trying to superimpose my favorite topic onto the world, trying to give meaning to things that have no meaning. Maybe what I call synchronicity, what I call divine inspiration, when I call Kundalini showing herself, revealing herself to me, is merely coincidence, chance, and all of this can be explained as just being random and arbitrary experiences. Maybe that's the case. I'm open to that possibility. I totally understand that some of this is so far out and unbelievable, and, it's very easy to scoff at and dismiss as just, one guy coming and putting meaning onto things that have no meaning. If we look for things in the world with our bias, we can usually find things to represent and support our biases. Sure, maybe so. I do my best to employ discernment, to employ skepticism, to be rational, to be reasonable, to be grounded as well. And so I invite you to just, you use your own judgment, use your own discernment, decide what all this really is. What is the Caduceus symbol representing health, the $? What is it about, the Buddha sitting under the cobra, the pharaohs having the cobra, the serpent being in Genesis? What is all this? Why is it showing up so many times all around the world with similar themes? spiritual themes. What's the purpose behind this? It lets you be the judge of that. I would love to hear your own thoughts about it. If you have any interesting encounters with Kundalini in your life as well, let me know. I'm always fascinated by these stories. They bring me a lot of great devotion and surrender in my heart when I hear these things, when I contemplate these things. The power and the magic of Shakti, of this journey, and how incredible it is. I'm humbled to be a part of it, to be able to enjoy the living poetry of all of this. So, I've given you some of the pieces. Maybe you have other pieces on your own end there that you can sort of piece together and see how do they fit for you. Let me know your thoughts, leave comments, send me some feedback over email if you like. I'll get back to you as well. You can also check out Brent Spirit for more free content just like this. You can go to brentspirit.com, where you can contact me with any questions about your journey. You can find out how to meet with me one-on-one to discuss your spiritual awakening, discuss your Kundalini process and challenges. And if you feel called, you can also make a donation there to support this work as well. I really thank you for your attention today. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Much love and peace.